In the spring of 1943, the Allied invasion of Europe was no longer a question of if, but where. Sicily lay directly across the Mediterranean from North Africa, ripe for invasion. But Nazi Germany knew it too. Thousands of German troops fortified the island, waiting. The Allies faced an impossible choice: launch Operation Husky, the invasion of Sicily, and risk catastrophic losses against a prepared enemy, or find another way. What happened next was one of the most audacious deceptions in military history. It didn't involve tanks, troops, or firepower. It involved a dead man, a man who never existed, and the Germans believed every word. This is the story of Operation Mincemeat, the intelligence operation that rewrote the rules of war. By April 1943, the war had shifted. The Allies controlled North Africa. Germany was weakening but far from broken. Every day the war continued meant thousands more dead on both sides. In London, a small group of intelligence officers gathered in a nondescript office. They weren't generals. They weren't strategists with battle plans. They were deceivers, liars by profession and necessity. At the center of this group was a man named Ewan Montague, a naval intelligence officer with a brilliant, dangerous mind. Beside him sat Charles Cholmondeley, a Royal Air Force officer. Together, they posed a question no one had dared ask before. The plan was simple in concept, but staggering in ambition. They would plant false invasion plans on a dead body. Then, they would release that body into enemy hands. The Germans, desperate for intelligence, would find the documents. They would read the plan, and they would believe them. But there was a problem. They needed a body, and not just any body. One that could survive weeks in the Mediterranean. One that would be discovered by the right people, at the right time, in the right place. The intelligence networks of Nazi Germany were vast and meticulous. Every document would be scrutinized, every detail checked, every lie would need to hold up under the most intense investigation. German intelligence officers sat in darkened rooms, cigarette smoke curling through the air, examining every shred of evidence. They would check, verify, question. One mistake, one loose thread, and the entire deception would unravel. Montague and Cholmondeley knew this. They understood the stakes. One detail out of place, one inconsistency, and the Germans would reject the entire package. So they prepared meticulously. Every element had to be perfect. 11. They would create not just documents, but an entire life, a complete identity, a man with memories, relationships, a future that would never come, a ghost made flesh, made paper, made real enough to deceive the greatest military power on earth. On April 24th, 1943, a Welsh tramp named Glynewr Michael died. He had no family. No one claimed him. He was forgotten before he was buried. But Ewan Montague saw something else. He saw opportunity. The body was requisitioned, quietly, secretly, and brought to London. Military officials gave it a new identity. They called him Major William Martin, Royal Marines. They created a life for him out of thin air. Major William Martin had a hometown, Swanage, England. He had a fiancée, a woman named Pam. He carried love letters from her, complete with lipstick stains and intimate details. They created photographs, membership cards, receipts from nightclubs. Every detail had to be perfect. German intelligence was meticulous. They would check everything. They would verify. They would question. They even gave him a £50 note, a fortune in 1943, in his pocket. Everything had to check out. A receipt from a nightclub would be found, a membership card, a hotel bill, proof of a life lived. So the team made sure every lie held up to scrutiny. They placed him in a steel chest, packed him in dry ice, and labeled it as vital military equipment. To the few who knew the truth, he was the mincemeat, a ghost, a phantom, a man who had never lived, now prepared to deceive the entire Nazi intelligence apparatus. The body was placed in a steel chest, military equipment crate, labeled unofficial. Inside, packed in dry ice to preserve it through weeks in the Mediterranean waters. Everything was sealed, documented, made official. Major William Martin was now ready for his final mission. A mission that would never see him fire a shot or utter a single word. Yet his impact would reshape the war. By the end of April 1943, everything was ready. The body was prepared. The documents were forged. The identity was complete. Now came the most dangerous part, delivery. On April 30th, 1943, a British submarine slipped through the dark waters of the Mediterranean. Its cargo, a steel chest labeled vital military equipment. Its destination, the coast of Spain. Its purpose, to change the course of the war. The plan hinged on one critical element. The Allies needed to ensure the body was found by Germany, not by Spanish fishermen who would simply bury him. Spain was neutral but Nazi sympathetic. The Spanish intelligence service had German liaisons. Everyone knew it. The message was clear. Release the body close enough to shore that currents would carry it to the beach. Spanish fishermen would find him. They always did. And once found, the Spanish intelligence service would take custody. And once in Spanish hands, it was only a matter of time before the Germans knew. Within hours, Spanish fishermen discovered the body on the beach. A dead officer, still in his uniform. Papers in his pocket, letters, identity documents, everything. Spanish officers arrived. They examined him. They read the document. They photographed everything. And they did exactly what Montague and Chumley knew they would do. They contacted the Germans. Within days, the documents had passed from Spanish hands into German hands. German intelligence officers sat in Berlin, studying the papers, verifying, checking, reading, and slowly, a realization dawned on them. The invasion wasn't coming to Sicily. It was coming to Greece, maybe Sardinia. Sicily was a feint, a diversion. The real invasion would come elsewhere, and they had to prepare. Within days, German forces began moving. Panzer divisions were pulled from Sicily. Reinforcements meant for the island were diverted to Greece. The German high command, convinced by the deception, had left Sicily vulnerable. German soldiers were rushed to Greece. Supplies were diverted. Defensive positions were abandoned on Sicily. The German commanders were certain the Allies would strike elsewhere. Sicily was safe, or so they thought. On July 10, 1943, Operation Husky commenced. The Allied invasion of Sicily began. American paratroopers descended from the sky. British soldiers stormed the beaches. What should have been a bloodbath became a triumph. The German garrison, now undermanned and unprepared, crumbled. American forces advanced rapidly. British forces pushed inland. Island after island fell. Thousands of lives were saved, not by superior firepower, not by tactical brilliance, but by superior deception. A dead man had rewritten military strategy. A fabricated identity had altered the course of the war. The Germans didn't realize they had been fooled until weeks later. Even then, they weren't entirely sure. Some German officers continued to believe the deception, that the Sicily invasion was a feint. They kept reinforcements in Greece, waiting for an invasion that would never come. Sicily was secured. The operation was a success. The casualties were far lower than anticipated. 38 days. That's how long it took to secure Sicily. What should have taken months of bloody fighting was accomplished in weeks. Tens of thousands of soldiers lived to see home again because of one dead man and one brilliant deception. The strategic victory was incalculable, not just in lives saved, but in momentum gained. The Allies now had a foothold in Europe. The invasion had succeeded. The war had shifted forever. After the war, Operation Mincemeat remained classified for decades. The British government kept the secret locked away, protecting the methods and the men who had conceived it. But when it was finally revealed, it changed how the world understood warfare.